Hello, I'm Professor Eman Gaad. I'm the Dean of Education here at the British University in Dubai, a full professor of inclusive education. Today, we're talking about the myths and taboos associated with a hot topic, inclusion. How do you include all children with and without disabilities, with and without special needs, into the regular classroom settings? We all know that, and it is a fact that inclusion now is a right. We also know that all countries, all local educational authorities support inclusivity and want to have all children, regardless of their strengths and weakness, inside the classroom setting. However, there are still long way to go when it comes to some myths, taboos, and misconceptions about inclusion and inclusivity. 4 misconceptions we're talking about today. First of all, the cost. People think that inclusion costs a lot and it is a very costly process. That's why some schools don't support it. Actually, not. Research say, I'm a researcher and I believe in research-based evidence. Research say that when we include all children in the regular classroom settings and we do away with some of the services offered in specialized centers, actually it is better and it's more cost effective. And some of those services could also be beneficial for all the learners inside the school. So number one is the cost. Cost actually, is not a matter at all. There is always an old say that every dollar, every pound, every dirham, every coin, whatever currency you're talking about, you spend on early intervention saves you 7 of such coin, dollar, currency in future. So when we spend now 1 of this, currency, we save 7 in the future on rehabilitation and longer term commitment of countries to support people with specific needs. The second myth and taboo here is the resources. People say that inclusion can't happen sometimes because we need resources. I'm talking about human resources and also non-human resources like equipment and assistive technologies. That is wrong, actually. Research say that if we train people right, all the way from the caretaker inside the school to the teacher assistant to the school staff, how to support the inclusivity, we are actually doing very well when it comes to resources. We're making sure that we're using all the potential in the schools. Inclusive schools are happier schools when it comes to human resources. People who work in inclusive schools feel more responsive to the needs of the people. And inclusive schools also, when it comes to equipment, if we have the right equipment, it will longer term plan, it supports a lot of people inside the school. So the second myth and taboo is resources and, we can't afford this and the resources will be not there. The third and most important is the emotional impact. People say that, if I have a child with complex needs next to my child, that might impact my child. Actually, that's absolutely dead wrong as well. Research-wise says that when we include young children with and without disabilities in the regular mainstream kindergarten and schooling, we create a better community. We create more accepting community, children that work, that live, that learn together, learn to live together. I've never had any problem. I've been an inclusivist for so many years. I've never had any problem with convincing a child to sit next to a child with complex needs. But I've had a huge problem convincing an adult to actually accept a child in this setting. It's all about our conception and our self-prophecy and what do we tell ourselves whether this person is accepted or not. So it is very important to realize that one of the big misses about inclusion is the emotional impact on everybody else, with or without disability. Inclusion is good for all children. Inclusion, people inside the classroom understand that people come in different shapes and size. Actually, basically, the school is a small representation of the community. And in the community, we find people of all sorts and abilities. So it's better to start at school to represent the community instead of having an elite exclusive school where people go outside it and then they find out that, this is not a true representation of the world. So the school is the mini world for the young goers to the school. Last but not least of the myths and taboos about inclusion is the longer term impact. People say that longer term impact wise, people who attend the inclusive schools are better employees, are better partners, are better husbands, and better future supporters of all learners. Ironically, until very few years ago, most of the people who are in the area of inclusive education, rehabilitation, ABA therapists, etc. We call them, people with previous exposure, whether they have been touched by a son who has autism, or a daughter who has Down syndrome, or maybe a relative who had ADHD and he was misdiagnosed, and they dedicated their life to actually learn and work in the field. But this is now changing. A lot of people who did not have this prior exposure are now going through this and wanting to serve the community back by learning to be professionals and paraprofessionals in the area of inclusion. So these were the 4 myths and taboos about inclusion. In a nutshell, inclusion does not cost more. In a nutshell, inclusion does not require as much resources as if we are building fences and segregating people in an institution. In a nutshell, inclusion does have good emotional impact on all learners, including those without disabilities. Last but not least, the longer-term impact of communities is very good when it actually the community cater for inclusive schools. Happy inclusive experience, everybody.